Speaking to Matt Gaetz, a former CIA hacker claims the U.S. is facing a massive Iranian cyber attack, likely within the next 30 days. Quote, they have the code to break into our nuclear reactors. I think he's right. Not that it's necessarily that Iran has these tremendous capabilities, but that the U.S. may want a casus belli. The U.S. wants a means to enter this war. And so there's several scenarios. One, the U.S. could just do it themselves and say it was Iran, maybe. Or the U.S. could sit back and say, let them do it because we want them. Come on, hit me. Basically saying that, hit me. We'll see what happens. F around and find out. If Iran does make this move, the U.S. then intervenes. Or worse, a third party wanting to instigate a war between the U.S. and Iran could also do something like this. Now, we do have this from Newsweek. Satellite images show the U.S. preparations for possible Iran war as of this morning. We are seeing, what is this, drag the slider over? Nothing's different. I don't know what the point is. They're saying that across the U.S., is this a video? All of these planes mobilizing for potential war in Iran. Look at this. Holy crap. Look at those planes go. You can see when they go over the North Atlantic, you lose them on Flight Tracker, but then they're all repositioning around Europe and the Middle East. I think this guy's not wrong. Here's the video from Matt Gaetz' show on One American News.
Do you believe right now Iran is in the planning or execution stages of cyber attacks against the United States?
Absolutely. I wish this wasn't the truth, but I believe within the next 30 days, you're going to see a massive cyber attack. All of the indications are there. Everyone's ganging up on Iran. You're seeing a lot of tension building, and they cannot compete on the military front. On the physical front with airplanes, weapons, there's no way they can compete with the United States and Israel. But on cyber, they are very, very advanced. Remember, Stuxnet attacked their nuclear reactors. Yes, they were a victim, but when you're a victim of a cyber attack, you also get access to all the code. So they actually have all the code that was used to break into their nuclear reactor. They now took that and they can use that against us to break into our nuclear reactors.
Kind of. Just because we were able to break into their reactors, the way Stuxnet worked was it infected every single computer everywhere, and it was looking for specific code related to centrifuges, particularly the Iranian ones, based on the names we know and the information that we had gathered about them. They could theoretically reverse engineer the code, but the code wasn't actually that complicated. What was sophisticated about it was that it was a small worm that infected every computer without anyone noticing because it didn't do anything. It was trying to infect everything until it got to their reactors, and when it did, it caused them to spin until they exploded. But I don't think he's wrong. Physical capabilities are very hard. It's expensive, but training on cyber is particularly easy. On top of that, offense in cyber war is ridiculously easy. Defense is ridiculously hard. There's a thing in cyber war, in security, called a 0-day or O-day, whatever you want to call it. This means that an exploit, maybe like a gap in your armor, has been known to the public for 0 days. And that's where it comes from. So the issue would be some security researcher notices that there's like a security vulnerability. Let me give you a really simple one, a really, really simple example. There's something called SQL or SQL injection, old school rudimentary hacking stuff. Most of this has been patched out and isn't really a concern, but it's really funny when people don't have updated systems and you can easily inject their systems. Here's how it works. And I've explained this before, but not everybody sees this stuff. So when you enter your username and password, you'll type in, guitar guy 99 or whatever, and your password is 1234567. What's actually happening is, in that box, there's actually a string of code before and after. And it says something like, if username equals blank, check database for username. If username, password equals blank, check database for password. If yes, then open up website. That's how it works. So you type in username and password. It's putting it in there. And then what happens is the code compares the name to an existing name in the database and to the existing password. And then they're usually hashed. I mean, it's converted, it's encrypted, and they compare the encryption. And then what happens is the website opens. Now, hold on. Injection is actually real easy. This is, again, old, and a lot of sites don't have this anymore. If it says, if username equals blank, then do whatever, you put a username in. But what if someone puts code in that box? So what happened was someone at some point realized, I know how this works. I'm going to write this. So in the username box, they did just put a username. They added code to it. That would say, or if username equals blank, then open up the website. So what happens is the code behind the scenes says, if username equals blank was changed to, if username equals or username does not equal, then still take action. So people figured out you could enter code into that box, really simple stuff, and trick the website into letting you in. That is the very rudimentary way by which people would break into computer systems. That's typical injection. So you basically get it. That's old school. Now so that's an exploit. That's how an exploit would work. When this becomes known to the public, they would say, a security researcher says, hey, we figured out this hole in these systems, and they publish it to the world saying, fix this in all of your systems. It is now known to the public. Governments spend millions of dollars on O-Day exploits. And then the term becomes like someone says, hey, I found this exploit that's not in public record. It is that there are 0 days. So what that means is no one knows it exists, at least publicly. So it's not security patched, and it's going to give you direct access into these systems. There are people who work in security, and they sit around and fumble around on phones and computers and stuff like that until they can figure out how to break in. And when they find that, they sell it to governments for millions of dollars. That's crazy. Now, it's easy to do and it's easy to buy. You're buying a mistake. It's really hard to defend against these things unless someone already knows about it. So Iran need only put out bounties. They could tell their citizens. Russia could do the same. The Syrian Electronic Army that was hacking on behalf of Syria was based out of Russia. They were in Moscow. And famously, they hacked Twitter back when it was Twitter and reported that Obama had been injured in an explosion at the White House, causing the U.S. stock market to drop by billions of dollars. Shortly after AP got a hold of the situation, they reported it was fake and recovered. Now, the way that most hacking is done, like this, like social cultural stuff, is called spear phishing or phishing. People are dumb. They'll get an email and it'll say, hey, this is your security administrator for the company you work at. You got to change your password. And they go, okay, click the link, and boom. They just gave all their information. Usually what happens is you click the link and then it'll give you a fake Google page where it says, like, you must relog back in. And they'll go, okay, and they'll try to relog back in, but they're actually just sending all their information to the hacker. The hacker then logs into their account. There you go. The stupid thing is, I got to be honest, it's much, much easier than actually even spear phishing. You can just Google search people because people have notoriously bad security. So hacking usually is social engineering. But if you want to break into a system where you can blow up a nuclear reactor or a water processing plant, water reclamation, the conspiracy theory is every nation has a new mutually assured destruction outside of nuclear weapons. And that is that over the past 10 years, every country has invested heavily in exploits against the cyber and industrial infrastructure of the opposing nation. That means many in cybersecurity believe Iran has the ability to press a button and blow up a whole bunch of electrical reactors or the electrical grid in the United States. Some have speculated it could be millions of dead, that if they were to shut down electricity in certain areas across the country, crippling our defenses, crippling our economy, crippling the internet in some capacity, this is going to cause massive economic failure, and that chain of events will lead to death in the periphery. I think so. I think one of the reasons Trump is concerned about engaging directly is that we do not yet know the full scale of Iranian cyber attack capability. Now, they may not be as good as China or whoever else, but if the U.S. does this, China could intervene. They can execute a bunch of ODA exploits, destroy a bunch of our nuclear reactors, like energy reactors. And what do? The sad secret is, within the past 10 years, researchers have been pointing out that our industrial control systems are from the 70s and use simple lines of code that are so easily exploited, it'd make your head spin. I think we might see it. They've talked about a cyber 9/11 for a long time. They want to go to war in Iran. They say either we nuke them or we invade. We'll see. Smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Stay tuned. We got more coming. We'll be back tonight at 8 p.m. for Timcast IRL, and we'll see y'all then.